I'm Lyle Novinski. I graduated in 1956 and entered, it's hard to say what I entered because it kept changing its name. It was Platteville State Teachers College, and then it was Wisconsin State College, and then I finally graduated from the University of Wisconsin-Platteville. I came I'm from Montfort, which is just up the pike a little bit. I came here because all of my teachers in Montfort had graduated from Platteville, and my father was a carpenter, and I enjoyed the shop class, so I thought, well, I'll be a shop teacher. And came as an industrial arts major, and then I found that all the people that I wanted to talk to were in the English department. So I became a double major. My real shift, though, was one day I met Tom Hendrickson, the art professor. And it's one of those epiphany kind of stories. I was walking down the hall, I think in the spring of my freshman year, or early sophomore year, and I had known who Tom was. He was a singular, interesting, acerbic kind of character. Actually, he was very young. He was only 10 years older than I was, but he was a World War I Marine veteran. As I walked past him, he hit my shoulder and spun me around and said, "Novinski, you know, you got a good head on your shoulder, but you don't know what the bleep you're doing, so get your bleep up to the art room, and I'll tell you what it's all about." But I had no identity as an artist because coming from a town, I had never seen a large painting. I knew there was a thing called art, but I thought it was about the size it was in books, you know, little. That's how limited that world was. So I went home that night to my apartment, my room, out on the end of Pine Street. So I guess it was a sophomore year, and I took a bunch of my show card colors and I made a piece of modern art, a screwy bunch of stuff on. So I was going to show him that I knew all about art. And he took it and he threw it across the room. And he said, "You dizzy bleep, you know, we're going to work on you." When I was growing up in high school, I really had an idea that I would have no life, that I would go out of high school, and every class ahead of me immediately went into the draft, the post-war draft. And then there would be a war, and I would get shot. I had no life. And I had no plans for even college until it came August of 1950, and so I enrolled in Platteville. I got a scholarship because I had good grades. A full ride scholarship to Platteville was $54 a year, $27 a semester with the fees. And then I made that decision, as I said, to be a teacher. There was a kind of hopelessness about living at all because you knew that you were destined, and the casualty lists from Korea were just horrendous. You know, we lost almost as many people in 3 years or 2 of combat in Korea as we did in Vietnam in 10 years, which is part of the pain of the loss of it all, but it was a kind of a hopeless world. But I remember distinctly, sort of blowing off the world. And Platteville shrunk immensely. The men just disappeared. I don't know how low it went, but it went way down in population. The yearbooks showed, photos of all the troops, all the kids who were drafted in service. But I was able, and I don't say I was interested, but I was able through what Tom had taught, and I was drafted in November of my senior year, pulled right out of school. I was able automatically to view what I was seeing as an artist. And that was the surprising thing when I looked at them years later, is that these are really solid compositions. The photographs you see downstairs are also, when I came home from Korea, I showed them to Tom. I had at least 250 of them, and there are 40 some downstairs. And he went ape over them. And that is, we looked at every one of those on the wall, detail by detail, and he put his face right up there and looked at everything. And I was complimented by that. Who wouldn't be, you know? So that to me was Tom's recognition of my work, and I felt I owed my life and my art to him. So, but he was the one who found those photos interesting, and I think that's what Tom recognized in them, that this kid was taking significant compositional photos, for which he was responsible. But as he fashioned my life, I figured I owed the debt, so I made the gift to the university. It's not a huge gift. And I hope it continues so we can finish naming a room, you know, in his honor. But I think that there's something terribly important that people owe their education. And see, my life really was turned around. I could have been a shop teacher and gone entirely out of business when the shop world collapsed, you know. So I owed that to him.